something is very different with gold now than it's ever been in my career. Again, huge inflows again into the March contract. The numbers just came out, or in through March on the import numbers, well over 100 metric tons. And the amount of gold that's coming into this country is completely and totally insane. It's way, way off the charts. The resiliency that gold seems to have, even when it gets hit, which is creating this great volatility, which keeps too many people on the sidelines, is extraordinary. And it just seems to me that there's something much bigger at play here, way, 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 way bigger. And I think gold is attempting to regain its role as a true store of value. It's being looked at a different way. It's not being focused on as a commodity. I think it is being focused on as counterparty risk wealth. The big players around the world understand this. You can see it by the accumulation, and it seems to be a scramble to accumulate it. And I don't know, I just think that there's something bigger with gold than we are being led to believe. You got Scott Bessent talking about a new monetary system during this administration. You have the IMF. IMF is asking for a new International Monetary Fund, says the world economic order is undergoing a major reset. I mean, and it is. And what is the foundation of this reset? It won't be U.S. Treasuries. It just seems to me that it's gold. And then, you know, with all of the talk we've heard about gold, with the Treasury Secretary of the United States being a self-proclaimed gold bug, and Judy Shelton talking about the Treasuries backed by gold, and Senator Loomis talking about revaluing gold along with the head of the Dutch National Bank and members of the Bundesbank. All of this gold rhetoric on top of, the U.S. becoming a net importer and massive inflows. Then you see Trump on Sunday, on Easter Sunday, I'm sure you've seen it. He posts the golden rule of negotiating and success. He who has the gold makes the rules. Thank you. He did that on True Social at 3:09 p.m. on Easter Sunday. What the hell does that mean? Are these signs? And you look at what's happening with the tariffs and these countries pushing back, it makes me feel that this is accelerating. And the question is he doing this intentionally? First of all, Triffin's dilemma, which should be mentioned, or Triffin's paradox, is something people should just go and Google and read about it. But it basically says if you're the world's reserve currency, you will always have a trade imbalance. And the White House knows this. If everyone around the world needs dollars, we cannot buy, or we will always buy more than we sell. We have to export dollars. And the only way to do that is through buying more than we sell. And so there'll always be a trade imbalance. This is the dilemma. This hollows out your manufacturing base because you are building the manufacturing capacity of other countries by fulfilling Triffin's dilemma. And so when you look at these countries that we're imposing these big tariffs upon in a way that is aggressive, to say the least, these are the countries that I said last week on a few shows that have been keeping our goods cheap, our interest rates low, and our asset prices high. Be careful what you wish for. If you don't have demand for the 10-year Treasury, and instead it's moving into things like gold and other commodities, well, the Treasury then falls, supply demand. And the inverse of a falling Treasury bond is a rising yield. They move inverse of each other. Interest rates go higher. This is where you get into massive recessionary talk where, the cost of money becomes very expensive. You're already seeing layoffs. So inflation is staying sticky and high. And now interest rates are going to rise and the economy is going to suffer and unemployment rises. Well, that's stagflation. And God forbid it doesn't get into a hyper stagflationary environment where the world just says, you know what, I've had enough of this shit. And I think it's a very big development. What happened last week. Sergei Lavrov came out and said that the new BRICS payment system, it's a BRICS bridge, it is the M bridge, which they are now calling a BRICS bridge, is now open to member and non-member nations. So you look at the Belt Road Initiative, which is 75% of human population as it is right now, 50% of global GDP. You look at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, a huge swath of GDP, one of the largest regional military organizations on the planet, or the largest, and the Eurasian Economic Union, the countries then in STAN. All of these countries together are all very much aligned with the BRICS, but most of them aren't BRICS members. Well, you put all of these entities together, you're damn well near 90% of human population, majority of global GDP, majority of all the production of everything from rare earths to precious metals to base metals. The Chinese are the engine of manufacturing. They own the London Metals Exchange. They're the largest producer of gold in the world, the second largest of silver in the world. You put all of these countries together, 3 of the 4 largest nuclear arsenals. You can't, if you underestimate them, you're a freaking idiot. And now, where everyone was going wrong, I guess you could even say myself included, we focused too much on the countries that were members. If they open up this BRICS bridge to non-member countries, as they're saying, settlement time is 7 seconds, not the 3 to 5 days it takes using the SWIFT system to go from country to country through various intermediary banks. 7 seconds, 98% reduction of friction and of costs, and will be open to other countries. And this is where the BRICS, I think, will shock the world. This is where gold comes into play. You trade in your local central bank digital currencies across mBridge or across the bridge, free from SWIFT intervention, and settle any imbalances in gold. Now, we were told that they had already agreed in principle something called the unit settlement token, which is a cross-border settlement system or a unified settlement currency, not a unified currency, but a settlement currency where 40% gold-backed and deliverable upon request by central banks or commercial banks. Well, they are doing that right now, just using gold. So, yeah, I think it's huge. And all of these things are coming together at the same time. It just seems gold's being reintegrated into the monetary system, both across the globe and now back here at home. And if you read between the lines, and Trump saying that, I mean, what the hell was that all about after we've become a massive importer of gold? What does that mean? I don't know any more than any of you do, but you put all the clues together and it just seems as though the world is looking at gold very differently, not as a commodity, but as an anchor to a new system. Prior to 33, when gold was backed, they backed M1, not M2. M1 is the currency in circulation. We can just do a little bit of an exercise and say, yes, they could. If you look at M2, it's 90 plus 92% credit, 8% notes. M1 is just the notes in circulation, which is 2,365 billion is M1 right now. So when you look at your bank account, if you had 100 grand in your bank account, and everyone looked at their bank account for the same branch, and they all have 100 grand in their bank, and they went to the bank, you'd be lucky to each get 3% on the dollar. That's how much cash they have in there. So the rest is credit. They owe it to you in Federal Reserve notes, but it's credit. That's M2. So if we just use M1, and we take that number of 2,365 billion and we divide it by supposedly the 261 million ounces that we have that haven't been audited since 1953, you would get $9,044 an ounce, and it would be backed. If you took that and multiplied that times 40%, which is, it wouldn't be a one-to-one backing, well, then it's really not backed. But anyways, the unit is 40%. The dollar, after it was no longer redeemable, was changed from 1-to-1 to 40%. The Swiss used 40%. But just for argument's sake, if you took 9,044 times 0.4, $3,617 at a 40% backing, in theory, he could back M1. But if you want to make it fully redeemable, it'd be about 3 times that. Would they do that? I don't know. Do they just back the treasuries? I don't know. But whatever they are doing, there is something that is happening, and gold is part of it. It just, at least it seems that way to me. And not only the rhetoric, the price action, the movements by countries all around the world, the repatriation of it, and the scrambling at the speed at which it's happening, and the corrections being very shallow, very brief, the run-ups being extreme, base building, and yet through all of this, retail public doesn't have a clue, man. I mean, they're all asleep at the switch. So take one of your gold coins and walk around town and, you know, show it to people and, oh, that's cool. That's gold. I know that, but tell me something about it. Tell me anything about it. And you'll find that the majority of the people couldn't even tell you what kind of coin it was. That the United States makes it every year. As an example, we brought an eagle, what the price of gold currently is, or anything intelligent about it. That tells me we are far, far away from any peak. What we are witnessing is the insiders doing all they can to get in front of this before whatever it is that's happening becomes common knowledge. Well, you know, goldbacks are a little bit more nuanced.
Sure.
And
yeah, it was new for anybody that saw that.
It is. And even someone like myself who's been doing this forever, you know, you hold these, which are cool, but, you know, it's just a really beautiful thing. How do you know that there's really gold in it? Our public would know it, but you hold a gold coin in your hand, and man has been in search of gold for 6,000 years. It was mentioned in the Bible 400 times. You hold this in your hand and you know it's real. You can feel it. It plays tricks with your eyes. Something like this shouldn't be that heavy in your hand, and totally. You know it. And that's why it has been money through all of time, because of its properties. So while I think the goldbacks are cool, I think it would be easier for someone who has no clue what's going on to at least feel that you were being honest with them if it were real gold. Maybe a little tougher with the goldbacks, irrespective of the fact that they're neat products.